Hello and welcome to Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr. This week, as our return guest, we have Luke Hill.
Howdy.
And he has a testimony of, I guess it would be healing and grace, would it be?
Healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., a.k.a. CJ. And this is my pastor, Luke Hill.
Howdy.
So, Luke, how does this testimony begin with your back?
Well, I actually shared this on Sunday, but there is a little more to the testimony now, and we're going through this time of the pandemic and everything, and I had come into contact with somebody who had tested positive, so we decided to quarantine for a couple weeks, and we went to just live stream services for a couple weeks because we just didn't want to take any chances.
Right, being responsible for your sheep.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest. I'm not that worried about it for myself, but it does. My theology is it doesn't prove my faith to take chances with other people's lives. So yeah, I heard one guy say it like, let's not dance with snakes and call it faith, So, so yeah, we decided to do that, and right after we made the announcement that we were going to quarantine, what nobody knew is I'd actually been dealing for months a problem where I'd hurt my back, and it was just nagging me, and I'd try to not do anything so it could heal, but it was just always there. And I, directly after the announcement, I heard it worse, to the point where I spent quarantine in a recliner with a heating pad, taking much more Advil than I should be taking, all the time, just to be able to take the edge off enough to not sit there groaning.
So do you think the quarantine was kind of a God's mercy with the timing?
But possibly, yeah, possibly. It was definitely, it allowed me to hide it better too, because my wife didn't tell anybody that I was hurt either, because, since we took over the church, we've been here 4 years, and between the three of us, we've had 4 major surgeries.
Oh, wow.
So she had literally just recovered, just got a surgery for her back. And then I hurt mine directly after her surgery, and now this, and it was like having a lot of the same symptoms, though not quite to the extreme of hers, but I was having a lot of the same symptoms as she had. It looked like a herniated disc, but unlike her, I don't have insurance. So it was just like, God, I can't afford to have surgery. God, you're just going to have to, I'm going to have to rest till it heals, or God's going to have to heal me. And that may sound kind of like faith, but truthfully, to be honest, I was in this place where I was just kind of like a little down, of just like, oh gosh, I can't believe again. It's we've seen God heal quite a bit in this church, but it's so much easier to have faith for somebody else than it is to have faith for yourself.
Yes, I totally relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can have faith that God can heal you, but when I'm actually going through the pain, faith's a lot harder to come by. So that's where I was at. I was struggling with that dichotomy of, I know God heals, but I'm going through the pain, and I'm having to take all these, stuff to take the edge off the pain. So I'm not feeling it. You know what I mean? So I still was doing the live streams, but what people didn't know is I was having to take stronger painkillers to be able to actually get up and move and do the live stream. The first week I played piano, and I was really struggling because, now you're taking something that kind of makes your head fuzzy, and trying to preach. Like, I don't even like taking allergy medicine if I'm going to be preaching, because I want to be absolutely clear. And I was feeling so fuzzy. The second week I had to go to guitar because I couldn't play piano and sing and keep my concentration. And that's, again, it's kind of one of those things that it just can, God was faithful. He brought me through, but I'm just struggling with God, why? I want to be able to be clear to reach people, uh, and here I was struggling even to be able to stand to get over here to do that. Well, I had
So
a
it was kind of like it was like a sacrifice then,
yeah.
where you had to put, even though you're hurting, you had the responsibilities you had to maintain.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, the first week, one of the people in our church, Eric, he put a comment on our Facebook Live feed there because he just knew about the quarantine, but saying like, "Hey, here he is." I can't remember the exact words, but basically, here he is still worshiping even in the midst of the struggle and not knowing there was a whole lot more to the struggle. And actually, that really meant a lot to me because he didn't know everything, but it hit home right where I was at.
God spoke to you through it.
Yep. So here I am, still like we're on the last week now. We're going to be coming out of quarantine, and we're kind of at that point where, um, I'm not going to be able to hide this anymore. Like, there's going to be people here, and we had this awesome opportunity coming with our Wednesday service that's coming up, and it's a thing called dueling pastors, and the other pastor that I do that with was going to come down so we could discuss what's going on. And so we go to have this meeting, and here I am. I'm taking painkillers to get up and just be able to sit at a table to talk to him. And so he notices, like, oh, you're hurting. Well, he actually called my son over. He goes, hey, Brendan, we're going to pray for your dad because where two or three are gathered together, there am I in the midst. And then he quoted some other stuff too, about laying hands on people and stuff. And it was. I've seen times when God does something and you feel something. I've heard testimony of, and I've had times when you feel like this heat or electricity or chills, and you get this sense that God's doing something.
Right.
It's my personal experience, and some people are completely different than this, but my personal experience, because I've had God heal me of some pretty major things a few times in my life. I feel nothing except for when I go to do something, suddenly I can do it. I was healed once of tendonitis. I had tendonitis so bad I couldn't even make a fist. I couldn't close my hand more than that, and I had to play my first big Christian concert. And at the time I was playing bass, and I couldn't close my hand, and I got prayed for it, and instantly the tendonitis that I'd been struggling with for a long time just went away, and I haven't had a problem with it since. But anyway, so my experience has always been I just don't feel anything.
Yeah, it just kind of happens.
Yep.
Kind of works.
Yeah, which sometimes you can kind of, if you have something that kind of marks the point, you'd be like, oh, I can point to that. Whereas when nothing happens, you can kind of be like, well, is it really gone?
Yeah.
Is it?
You kind of have doubts.
Yeah, you kind of just wonder because you kind of start testing stuff out, and I think to safely test stuff out to make sure, test what you're praying for, see if God actually healed you. So the problem with my back was, and what happens with a herniated disc, and I'm assuming that it was a herniated disc, is you will have acute pain right in the spinal column. Very sharp acute pain when you try to move. And I had that, like anytime I tried to shift or tried to get up out of a chair or sit down or any type of walking, like there was a very sharp acute pain right in my spinal column and the small of my back. But on top of that, it pinches off these nerves that control your muscles. And I had a lot of constant pain in my muscles from the bottom of my rib cage on the side all the way down to the back of my knee. This whole side was just aching constantly. And what happened was when they prayed for me, I didn't feel any different, but I was standing still at the time. And as I moved, I didn't get any of that pain in my spinal column. As I sat down, I didn't get any pain in my spinal column. As I stood up, I didn't have any pain in my spinal column. Now, the weird thing is my muscles still ached from that area, but I never got another pain in my spinal column from that point. And over the next 2 days, that pain in my muscles, it was kind of like the healing was in the spinal column, and then the muscles just had to catch up.
Right.
Because the muscle wasn't actually the problem. That was just something as a symptom of the other. And over the next 2 days, that pain went away. And I was prayed for on a Monday. Wednesday was my first day that I actually got up and was like doing stuff all day, because I was able to, and the pain went away over the course of that day
Right.
on my side, and down my leg. And by Friday, I actually dared to try something that I hadn't dared try. I actually did some yard work. That was
Oh,
pretty light yard work, but I hadn't, like I said, the original problem in my back started months ago. So I haven't been able to really do any yard work for months. And I did like probably several hours of I was, vacuuming up leaves and then burning them. So not real heavy work, but it was enough so that like from my mid back up into my neck, I was sore, that night. Like I stiffened up because I wasn't used to it anymore. But my lower back was fine. And
amen.
yeah, there was no pain there. And there's, from everything it told me, it should have been, and then this, I think it was Sunday afternoon, I actually got contacted. So I'd share the testimony of that on Sunday morning. I shared a quick version of it. But then Sunday afternoon, I had somebody, from our congregation that contacted me that was having a problem in their house and they didn't know how to fix it. They were actually just asking me for if I had a reference for somebody that could do that, and I didn't know anybody that did that particular type of work, and so it was something I was comfortable with to a degree, and I was like, well, I'll stop over and look at it. I didn't know if I was going to be something I could actually do or not. I was going to check it out. So I go over Monday, and I ended up working for like, I don't know, it was probably like eight hours or so, and it was a lot of it was up and down stairs the whole time, up on ladders, working over my head, going down in the basement where I had to scooch over some, and when you have lower back pain, the last thing you want to do is have to scooch over at all. But I was having to do work where I'm like, hunched over and yeah, so that was 8 hours, and I tell you what, when I got done, I went home again from mid back up through my neck. I stiffened up so bad I couldn't sleep that night because it was just like I was actually in a lot of pain from the rest of my back. But it's that I worked pain. My back wasn't used to it anymore. It was I worked pain. It was something. It'll be better tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a good kind of pain from
Yeah,
knowing you did a good job and rather
yeah.
than just having health issues.
But my lower back was fine. My lower back was great actually, and almost to the degree of like, I should have been stiff in my lower back too, just from the work,
Right.
but I wasn't. But my lower back was just good,
Wow.
and
Hallelujah.
what? I don't even know if you'll be able to see this, but you can probably see it now. So this is something I could not do before. I could not do that before. I couldn't barely bend over without being in extreme pain, and praise God, it just it.
That's
And I thank Pastor Mitch for being bold and stepping up. But the thing is, it's not about a person. We can sometimes get our eyes on people, and it has nothing to do with the people. It has to do with God. We serve a mighty God. He's still in the miracle working business, and He loves us, and He wants to build our faith.
yeah.
And
He wants to build our faith, and He loves us. He wants to see us healed. He doesn't want us to be in pain. That doesn't always mean like we're gonna get healed in the way that we anticipated, or but He has that compassion
Yeah.
on it.
And if I could say one more thing about it, because I've seen, I've been healed. I've had times when God has blessed me to be able to be a part of the praying, either the singular or a part of a team of people praying for somebody and see people healed. But then I've also seen times when they don't get healed. And, to be painfully honest, I don't always know why. And I the one thing I do know is the problem's not on God's end. When we look at what Jesus did as the perfect example, Jesus' perfect theology. So if you have a problem with theology, look to Jesus, and He is perfect theology. So when I look at Jesus, I don't see any place where He prayed for somebody they didn't get healed. Now people will point to, well, it says, when He was in His hometown, There were not many healings because of the lack of faith. But we don't see any place where he actually prayed for healing and it never happened. Okay, so our example is if you pray for healing, it works. So that tells me that the problem is not on God's end. And this life we're on is a journey. We're learning. We're stepping out in faith. We're growing, and so that's one of the things we have intended to do in this church is we're going to learn together. And if we
fall, grow together.
Yeah, and if we fall on our face sometimes, it's okay because it's a learning experience, and we're learning together.
Most definitely, we're being perfected as the day approaches unto salvation. Amen. For the catching away, and why we be perfect 100% until we are with Christ in eternity. But we have to abide in Him and seek a deeper, more sanctified life in Him as that day approaches.
Amen.
So
yeah, that's all I got for you today.
Well, you heard it. That's all we have for this week. Stay tuned next week. Not sure what we'll have yet, but it'll be great. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., with my guest, Luke Hild. And we say, God bless you, be blessed, and stay blessed in Jesus' name.